and gentlemen, it is 6 p.m. and we are now going to open the annual town meeting for the town of Chester. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the town meeting. Please have a seat as you're coming in. The town meeting is open and for the benefit of all registered voters for the town of Chester. If you're not a registered voter, we welcome you to observe, but you cannot participate. There will be occasion when we'll hear from a number of people who are not registered voters, and I would ask without objection that those who are necessary to speak to a particular article or to the body who are not registered voters be allowed to speak. There being no objection, then we will continue. I'm Bill Dakin, the moderator. Your front are the members of the select board, including Arnie Joninas, Lee Gustafson, Ariana Knapp, Tim Roper, Peter Hutkins. Julie Hance is to your far left, our town manager. Our assistant town clerk, Amy, is sitting next to Julie, and in front of Julie, town clerk Deborah Aldrich. If you want to speak, please raise your hand and be identified, or be identified by the moderator. Once you're identified to speak, we will ask you to state your name. It's important that you state your name. If you don't, I'm going to ask you, and after 2 or 3 times, I really don't want to embarrass people, but the clerk needs to be able to note who it is who is speaking, who's moving a motion or moving an article or seconding the motion to approve an article. So please stand and state your name when it's your turn to speak. So we begin with the Town of Chester warning notice of town meeting. The legal voters of the Town of Chester are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Chester Town Hall, 2nd floor, in said Town of Chester on Monday, March 3, 2025, at 6 o'clock p.m. to act on the following articles. Voting on Article 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be by Australian ballot on March 4, 2025, tomorrow, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Chester Town Hall, 2nd floor. Article 1, to elect town officials for the ensuing year as provided by the public laws of Vermont. This voting will be tomorrow by paper ballot, and so we encourage all of you please to turn out and vote tomorrow. I'm now going to introduce our representative to the State House, Tom Charlton, and I will, as Tom knows, and our state senators who are also here to speak, Tom will have 5 minutes to talk, to tell you what's on his mind. There will be no question and answers. It's just an opportunity for Tom to introduce himself and to say hello. Tom Charlton.
Well, as you heard, Bill gave me 5 minutes to speak, and those of you who have known me longest know that that has never happened in my entire career, but here goes. I want to welcome Joe and Allison. These are my peeps. This is home. Welcome aboard. There are a number of enormous issues that, if you follow the news, you know what they are. Education is one, healthcare costs, and housing, affordable housing. These are the 3 big items, and we've been told that these may keep us there almost until June, but certainly into May, because they're involved. The people have asked me repeatedly, what is my position on X, Y, and Z? At this point, they are still formative, except that I am looking for some cost effectiveness and solutions that don't cause us 6 more problems. And I am very concerned about finance reform with regard to education. I do think that we can make progress on that this year, and should. I'm a little more hesitant when it comes to merging schools. That's further down the road, and that is another involved conversation that I'm not convinced about yet. I'm working on the housing committee, so when bills regarding affordable housing come before the House, they come next to us, where we tear them apart, go over them with lawyers and everything else. The housing crisis, and just so you know, this is the backstop to a whole lot of other issues. When we talk about affordable housing in Vermont, we are talking about the fact that people who have jobs and who are career people and are working people cannot buy a home in Vermont presently, and they very often cannot find an apartment. And there are several things driving this. Not just the Airbnb, the short-term rentals, but the reason that people leave long-term rentals and take that up as an alternative. Landlord-tenant relationships. The drug crisis is driving a lot of the evictions. The evictions, of course, are driving the homelessness, and we don't have affordable places to help these people get into. This is part of the logjam. There are a variety of things that we're working on, including creating enough workforce to build the houses we need. Being told that we need 30,000 houses by 2030 is a little bit daunting. And if you've tried to find somebody to fix your back step, you will understand why we're a little concerned about finding people to build 30,000 houses. But here again, as that conversation unfolds, understand that we're trying to make it possible for family-age people to afford housing in Vermont. Again, this fills your schools back up, this builds your workforce back up, and this expands your tax base so that we can afford the kind of budget that we actually have. And I think these are all critical things.
Dr. Charlton?
Is that my 5 minutes?
You've got plenty of time.
Oh, good, because I have notes.
You got two minutes.
I get 2? Okay. After I speak, and very shortly, I am going to dash over to the metropolis of Athens and spend a few moments over there. But because we don't have time for questions and answers, and I think this is important, I will be here on Friday from 6 to 7:30. That gathering will be on Zoom. You can join from anywhere in the district. My cards are on the table by the back door. We'll have the Zoom link on a variety of websites, and probably maybe we can get it on the town site too. I don't know. There must be a way. If you are trying to contact me, I will tell you that using my legislative email is the most effective way. All right, you may have to do it twice if you don't hear back in 24 hours, because there are about 200 emails a day while that place is in session, and they fly by quickly. And I do want to hear from you, because when it comes to what I am going to vote for, there are 3 ingredients. One is, to some degree, my position. The second is your input as constituents. And the third is what that bill actually looks like by the time, because I'll tell you what goes into a committee to begin with. And I see Lee Dakin smiling because she knows what goes into a committee is not always what comes to the floor to be voted. There are some very, very good issues that I might otherwise support that sometimes show up in really troublesome bills. So let me know what you think, and I will share with you what I think. That's my 5-minute bit.
Thank you.
So, but I'm going to keep talking because it's a rare thing that I get to stand up and public a whole lot of nice things about people until it's like their celebration of life. But tonight, I get to direct your attention to the first page with the colored pictures on it in your town report. And I get to talk about somebody who's really worthy of being talked about and loves it, I can tell from here. And I can imagine that person first seeing that page and going, oh my God. Am I wrong? No, I'm not wrong. Okay. So I want to tell you that this person is the subject of a joint resolution of the Vermont House of Representatives and the senators, the state senate, and it's full of whereases and wherefores and all kinds of wonderful legalese language all about this individual. It will prove the time it gets here that only a politician can take 2 months and 14 paragraphs to say congratulations and thank you. And ironically, it won't tell us anything we don't already know here in Chester, which is that we have a really amazing town clerk, Debbie Aldrich.
I'm going to add to that really quickly, Bill, Julie Hans, Town Manager, that Debbie's proclamation will be presented at her retirement party on April 26th at the Legion.
Thank you. Tom, thank you. And Debbie, thanks, and lots of love. Now I'm going to introduce our two state senators here tonight, Allison Clarkson and Joe Major, and they too will enjoy their 5-minute opportunity to say hello to the body here.
Can we stand here with you, Bill?
You may.
Okay, great. Good evening. It is wonderful to be here and launch tonight. We have several town meetings tonight, so it's great always to start in Chester. I'm Allison Clarkson. I, along with you are?
Joe Major.
Joe is, has joined us. Dick McCormick, as you may recall, retired. And Joe, we're lucky enough, Becca White and I are lucky enough to have Joe join us. I love town meeting. I love celebrating our municipal life together. And this year, Vermont, we found out from the Secretary of State that Vermont ranks #2 in the country in its public engagement, in its love of public meetings. And I think that all stems from our engagement with town meeting, whether we're on Zoom or whether we're in person. It's wonderful that we do that. I represent you in the Senate as the chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. Tom and I are working together on sister committees, one in the House and one in the Senate. And I'd say there are 3 big things that we're working on this year. The first we're all aware of is the federal uncertainty. And this is a huge challenge for us in Vermont because our $9 billion budget, 1/3 of our state budget is federal money. We do not have the reserve funds once those holes in the dike start being developed. We do not have the money to fill each one of those holes. We have the, some of it, Agency of Transportation, Department of Labor, 90% funded by federal money. Agency of Human Services, 3 Squares, SNAP, many of our human service programs are all federally funded. So we have set up a task force. The Treasurer has set up a task force working with the legislature and the administration to analyze where we're vulnerable and where we may need to be being careful about saving money. And it's a huge challenge for us. Second, Tom alluded to, we have, you all made it very clear that we needed to really provide property tax relief and that we needed to look at education. I'm not sure all of you asked us to upend education and the entire education system, but we are beginning there and looking at, because if we're going to change the financing formula, we're going to need to long-term do some work on the delivery, on the governance, and on the financing. Those are the 3 big things the governor's transformational plan proposes, and we'll be working through that in the next several months. So that's the second big thing. And there are many surveys. I think Tom may have the speaker's survey that was sent out, and I know that our email has gone around asking for your input on the governor's transformational education plan. So we would love your feedback on that. And the third, of course, is our committee work. And we're working, I work in the morning on economic development, housing, and general affairs, and in the afternoon on GovOps. And we have a big bill coming out on housing, on labor, and on economic development. In economic development, we're focusing really on shoring up the resources we have for entrepreneurs and small business. We're really focusing on small businesses. And in housing, we're trying to create a project-based financing system to finance infrastructure. And that is the piece we're going to start in the Senate and get to the House, because the House is having its challenges on that. And so we're going to try and see if we can get that to the House, which would enable financing infrastructure, which our housing is dependent on. But we have a lot of great programs that we're going to be continuing to finance in housing. And with labor, we have a number of labor issues as well. And on that, I'm going to turn over to you.
Thank you. As Allison said, I am the junior senator from the District of Windsor, and I unfortunately have to be a little bit of the downer in this, because we all want these things to happen fairly quickly, and unfortunately, they are not. Particularly when you look at the education system that the governor has proposed, and then what soon will be coming out of committee for the legislature, they are very different. And so there will be some negotiation with that to make sure that we come to some kind of conclusion. And Tom said that he was not in favor of consolidation. Unfortunately, it is almost a foregone conclusion. There will be some consolidation of school districts in this state. The other thing that people have to look at is health care. Health care, quite frankly, it has been a burden and touches every part of the finance in the state. There is a bill that will be coming out of committee very shortly to address that. And once again, I am cautioning you that it will not do everything at once. It is a slow process. And, but given that, we will try to move it forward as quickly as we possibly can. I am the vice chair of the Agriculture Committee, as well as and a member of the Institutions Committee. And institutions deal with government buildings, corrections, as well as IT. And what's coming out of there, which you all may be interested in, is data privacy. When you get on the internet and you give your information to a particular entity, that entity sometimes can sell your information with or without your permission to other entities. We want to make sure that you give your permission, as well as them not being able to sell any of your information. And so that's something that we're working on for Vermonters. But I want to drive this home. Tom did, Allison did. We want to make sure that there is some cost certainty for you, some level of affordability, which, quite frankly, you have not had in a while here in Vermont. And we are working very hard to make sure that that happens. I will also address something that Allison said, and that is, in particular, a third. Just imagine that, a third of our budget here in Vermont comes from federal dollars. And if we even knew what the playing field was, then we could address some of those things, but we don't even know that right now. So I will say this: stay tuned, be engaged. Tom's email, Allison's email, my email, please, I love to hear from you, even if it says, quite frankly, you're not doing a very good job. But that tells me something, and it tells me how you're feeling. And that's important, because I work for you. And sometimes the things that I do, you do not like very much, or will not like very much. But it's important that I hear from you, and we have a dialogue, and I tell you, and this is important, why I did something. Why I did something. So I appreciate your time, and I say this, I said this on the campaign trail, and Allison knows this. Allison and I are both natives of Buffalo, New York. And we are, is Buffalo that funny? And we, sometimes. And there was a clothier in Buffalo called Cy Sims. And Cy Sims, his slogan is, "An educated consumer is our best customer." And I say that about you. Be engaged, email us, make sure you know all of the facts, not just from one side or the other, don't always believe me in what I say because, quite frankly, I'm a politician. And so if that's the case, I'm going to do my best to tell you the truth and what's going on, but make sure you get other sources as well. So I appreciate you coming out, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Good luck. Thank you. I want to just say people are standing up. If you have space for people to sit down next to you, could you please just raise your hand to show where there are some seats? And those who are standing, if they'd like to follow the raised hands and find a closer seat. And there are 2 seats up here. Look at this. The place is just unpacking. So now that everybody is seated and on their way to other places, we will continue. So Article 2. Article 2 says, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Chester in an amount not to exceed $524,000, subject to reduction from the receipt of available state and federal grants and aid, be issued for the purpose of purchasing a grader for Highway Department in the amount of $374,000 to be financed for a term of 10 years, and paving sections of Flamstead Road in the amount of $150,000 to be financed for a term of 7 years. This equipment is replacing existing equipment at the end of useful life and are not additions to the town inventory. Voting on this Article 2 will be tomorrow. Article 3. Shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Chester in an amount not to exceed $2,982,900, subject to reduction from the receipt of available state and federal grants in aid, be issued for the purpose of financing the cost of construction for the replacement of the Depot Street force main, gravity main, and First Avenue pump station. It is anticipated that the debt service on the bonds will be paid from revenue generated by wastewater user fees. Voting on this will be tomorrow by Australian ballot. Naomi Wright, however, is going to make a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Naomi Johnson. Wright is my maiden name of many years ago. I'm with the firm Dufresne Group, and we are the engineer for the town. I have a presentation here tonight on PowerPoint.
Sue's getting it.
Okay. So I'm going to talk tonight about the wastewater and treatment facility, the collection system, and the 3 components that are being included in the project that you're being asked to vote on for improvements. So there's 3 components, as I mentioned. There is a pump station that is on First Avenue. The discharge of that pump station, which is a force main, and that's the line that you're seeing in green. That line currently goes up Depot Street and is being proposed to be relocated to First Avenue. And then there are some gravity sewer mains proposed for replacement. Those are the blue lines that you see on this graphic. And if we could go to the next slide.
Amy, could you just speak right into the microphone, please?
It's Naomi. Amy's my sister. Okay, I'll try to do a little better there. So the mains themselves, there's 3,000 feet of the force main, the pump discharge main, the pump station, and then there's the gravity main, which is 1,700 feet. The need for this project is multiple. First of all, that force main that is on Depot Street has cracks in it, a few breaks at the railroad tracks. It also is confined by buildup in the pipe, which is limiting the capacity of the pump station. The lines that are primarily on Depot Street are also cracked, those are the gravity lines, and those lines are subject to inflow and infiltration from other flows besides sewage, meaning groundwater and runoff from storms. Next slide, please. The town in about 2 years ago, in 2023, did an asset management plan, and that was an inventory of all of the collection system and the pump stations in town. The asset management plan and inventory identified the highest priority projects in town to address needs. The 3 projects that are included in the article are the highest priority. This table right here is from the asset management plan. And you can see that the First Avenue pump station replacement is number 1 on the list, followed by the Depot Street force main. The third item is various gravity mains on Route 103, and so a portion of those are also being replaced, but not all. If we could have the next slide, please. This is a picture of what I mentioned as the undercapacity and clogged lines. So again, this is wastewater going through mains and losing the capacity of the pipe because of buildup in it. That restricts what the pumps can do in the pump station. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll give you some more information about the pump station. As I mentioned, it's on First Avenue. I'm sure that many of you recall the floods in the past that have flooded the lower section of Depot Street, Route 103. This is a photo of one. On the left-hand side is the pump station out of the frame of the picture, but it does go underwater during the 100-year flood. Next slide, please. So I've broken down the costs here in this graphic. And I'll go up here and go through them line by line. So again, there's 3 components. We're envisioning that to be 3 different construction contracts. The first one, the contract 1, First Avenue force main, is estimated at $950,000. Contract 2 is the pump station itself being replaced and improved due to age and its location in the floodplain, $492,000. And the third is the gravity lines on Depot Street, $735,000. So that's a total of $2,180,000. The project is proposed to be constructed in the year 2026. So we've added inflation in at $65,000. In addition to that, there's a contingency factor. The contingency means if something goes wrong during construction or something is unanticipated. That could mean additional ledge found underground that increases the construction costs. It could mean unforeseen increases in the materials between now and the time that the project is constructed. So the contingency that we have for our budget is $220,000. Then we have the engineering costs, and so there's 3 components there. The costs for planning and preliminary design, which that again is the asset management plan that I referenced earlier, that's $102,000. The final design cost was $92,000. Those first 2 items are complete. The third engineering item is the construction engineering, and that is for construction management and observation of the contractor for $283,000. The last line item is $40,000. That covers the town's costs for legal administration and any fiscal costs. So the total is the amount of Article 3 that you're being asked to vote on, and that's $2,982,900. We could have the next slide, please. So again, the benefits of this project. It is going to replace all 3 components that I mentioned, to give reliable wastewater collection and pumping facilities. It's going to comply with state and federal requirements, specifically flood proofing. And the criteria here is not just the 100-year flood event, it's the 500-year event. So the design replacement flood pump station will be elevated above the 500-year flood, so that when there is a large flood, it does not damage the new facilities. And thirdly, to replace the deficient infrastructure, which age is one issue. Those facilities are 50 years old, but they also have the physical deterioration of cracks in the mains and some deteriorated manholes. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the finances of the project. This project is primarily funded by the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. That is a state-administered program that is specifically designed for wastewater and stormwater projects. The town will receive funding with a 30-year term loan with a 2% interest rate. In addition to that, there are subsidies that the town qualifies for. Those subsidies are basically dollars off the project, meaning that it's money that does not have to be repaid. The town is anticipating $847,000 worth of subsidies. So that would reduce the loan amount to roughly $2 million. Now, what that means for the average user is that your rates to repay that loan for a 30-year term would be $12.52 per month. In addition to the loan through the state revolving fund, there is also the ability to apply for grants, which the town is pursuing. Those grants would reduce the final loan cost if received. Next slide, please. So again, just to show the progress of the town towards addressing these high priority and high risk projects, the asset management plan was conducted in 2023. The town immediately pursued design, and that has been completed to a 100% stage. We're now at the stage of preparing for construction, asking for the town users and town voters to approve a bond vote for a critical infrastructure replacement. With the approval of that request, construction will occur in the year 2026 and be concluded in the year 2026. The loan repayment would start 1 year after conclusion of construction, meaning late 2027. And again, I've outlined the user costs here, an increase of $12.52 per month. That amount is subject to go down if additional grant funds are received for the project. Are there any questions?
In the back, would you please stand up and state your name?
I'm Frank Kelly. Thank you for that, Naomi. Can you answer two quick questions? One would be, what is the life expectancy of this revision to our wastewater system? And if you could answer that, that would be great. That's question number one.
Sure. So the life expectancy depends on which elements. So the piping itself, it can last up to 100 years. The pump station is 50 years.
Very good, thank you. And I think for all of us, and some of us don't live in the village, can you tell us what would happen if this doesn't happen? Because I think that's going to be helpful for all of us to understand what could happen if.
Sure.
Thank you.
So first of all, the pump station, the First Avenue pump station, collects wastewater from the Stone Village, portions of Depot Street, portions of First Avenue, portions of Elm Street. It is the largest pump station in the collection system itself, and so it would be a major event if that pump station was to fail. Right now it's running under capacity, meaning those pumps, especially during the spring, have to run continuously. So what would happen if it failed would be very high costs, because all the wastewater that goes to that pump station would then have to be physically trucked by, there'd have to be a temporary tankage set up and then put into tankage trucks and then taken to the wastewater treatment facility. So it's very expensive and very costly.
Other questions?
Naomi, you had said that it was $12.50 per month per user that would be paying for it, or is it by building quarter, $12.50? It's per month?
Per month.
Per month. And it's totally borne by the users, the water and sewer users, not the taxpayers, even though the taxpayers are the ones that are voting on it in general.
That's correct, by the sewer users.
Thanks.
And you are?
Arnie Janinas.
Thank you. Other questions? There being no other questions, Naomi, are you concluded?
I am concluded.
All right, as Naomi Johnson's taking a seat, there are more seats available. If anybody is looking for a seat up front and any other seats around, if you can raise your hand if there's seats next to you. But please move around and be comfortable in walking over somebody's feet. We now move on to Article 4. Article 4, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Chester in an amount not to exceed $1,140,000, subject to reduction from the receipt of available state and federal grants and aid, be issued for the purpose of financing the purchase of a solar photovoltaic generation facility currently located on town property, Jeffrey Will site. It is anticipated that the debt service on the bonds will be paid using revenue generated by an electricity cost savings resulting from the facility. This voting is tomorrow by Australian ballot. Tim Roper is going to speak to this.
Thank you, Bill. If you could go to the next slide, please, Sue. So the history, does everybody know where that solar array is in the Jeffrey Well? Does anybody not know where that is in town on Route 103 north going toward Ludlow on the left? Okay. So the town entered into a contract with the developer of that in 2014 to locate the solar array on town property. Is that better? Okay. Got to be careful with these microphones. She's taught me that. Do I need to repeat what I just said? Okay. The town entered into a contract with the developer of the solar array in 2014 for them to construct that array on town property at the Jeffrey Well site. The town also is one of the off-takers of the solar power from that array. The current owner is a company called GLC Chester Community Solar, which is really an LLC subsidiary of a company called Greenbacker. So they own that system. It was built came online in August of 2015. So it's almost 10 years old now. Next, please. There are 3 off-takers, 2 in addition to the town of Chester. One of those is the town of Pittsford. I've made that mistake before. And the other is St. Johnsbury Academy. We all receive credits from the solar system on our town electric bills, or the school, in their case, on their school electric bills. That's through what's called a power purchase agreement. So how that works is the town pays the developer, Greenbacker, at a lesser rate than the value of the credits that are put onto our bills. Next, please. So the system itself is, in the industry, they would call it a 500 kW system. It's 495 kilowatts AC power. But the panels actually come up to be 750 kilowatts DC power. And I can explain that if anybody wants to, but it gets a little tricky. Just know that this is a really robust system that produces a lot of power. It's grid connected, what's called behind the meter, so all of the power that's produced from the solar array is metered by Green Mountain Power. And that's where the credits are tabulated that are then assigned to the 3 off-takers. Last calendar year, the system produced 778,833 kilowatt hours. Now, the average home uses somewhere around 1,000 to 1,500 kilowatt hours a month, just to give you something for comparison. This is a really nice solar system. Next, please. So why does the town want to own this system? We're currently paying 90% of the value of the credits to GLC Community Solar. So we're getting a 10% break on those credits on our bill. By purchasing the system, we will get the full value of those credits on our bill. We will also then be able to receive the payments from the other 2 off-takers, the town of Pittsford and St. Johnsbury Academy. Those payments will come to the town of Chester. Next, please. So the credit that we will receive on our bill, combined with the payments received from the other off-takers, are expected to generate enough money to actually make the bond payments from year 1 on. So it's a positive cash flow starting in year 1. And after the bond has been paid for, so after 10 years, it's going to generate significant income for the town. And we'll get into the details of that in a minute. Next, please. So the 10-year bond that you're being asked to vote on is not to exceed $1.14 million. The bond payments, assuming a 3.5% interest rate, which is conservative from the work that Julie's been doing with the bond bank. All of the quotes we've gotten so far are less than 3.5%. So it's a very conservative estimate that we're working with here. That works out to be $135,276 per year. The projected annual revenue from the solar after our expenses is $136,327. So you can see there the bond payment should be covered by that. The 15-year return to the town is projected at $694,000. And in year 11, the projected income to the town becomes $142,000 a year. So what are the downsides? Right now, we're collecting rent from GLC Community Solar to the tune of $6,000 a year. We lose that because they won't own it anymore. We're also getting property taxes on the facility itself, not on the land, because the town owns the land. We're getting property taxes of $6,000 per year. That was, well, $6,000 was the 2024 tax bill. So we used a 6% escalator on that, which that's been our tax rate increase for the last 2 years. That works out to be $141,000 and change over 15 years, which makes the return on investment over 10%, 10.25% as a projection, which is a good deal. Next, please. So in summary, 10-year bond not to exceed $1.14 million. We expect positive cash flow from solar production covering the annual bond payments beginning in year 1. Years 11 through 15 should provide the town with cash revenue of over $140,000 a year. And the return on our borrowed investment is projected at 10.25%. Next, please. So that graphic there, if anybody can see it, is actually from the monitoring of the solar system. And I just use that for a placeholder in case anybody has any questions.
Are there any questions? Please raise your hand. Yes, sir. And you are? Oh, Mr. Atwood first. Thank you. Give Mr. Atwood a hand.
Philip Atwood. I don't see any maintenance cost in those figures.
That's a great question, Bill. They are factored into, there's quite a spreadsheet that was put together on this, and there are maintenance costs built into that. There are monitoring costs that are built into that. There are legal costs that are built into that. There are administrative costs. All those things have been accounted for, but thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Evan, behind you. Gentlemen, please state your name.
Gerald Gleason. My first question was maintenance cost, which you already beat me to it. Second question was longevity. Considering that we've already been using it and it's been in operation 10 years, what is the anticipated life of this system?
Great question. Thank you, Jerry. Solar panels and the inverters in this system have a 25-year warranty on them. So all the projections that we're showing here are for that 25-year period. Anything that fails in the way of panels or inverters, which takes the DC power and makes it into AC, is covered under warranty. We didn't project beyond 25 years for that reason, but solar panels work for a really, if you look at it this way, if anybody's willing to warranty their product for 25 years, it's a pretty safe bet, in my mind, that they're going to work at least that long, if not a lot longer. And there are solar panels that have been producing for 40, 45 years now.
Second question I've got, and I don't know, this kind of goes along with life expectancy. In the case of like hail or ice, is there an insurance policy that ends up being taken out on this? And if so, is it costly or what would be involved?
Another great question, thank you. And that is also built into the sheet that we calculated all this cash flow information from. Yes, it will be insured.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Yes, ma'am. You are?
Vicki Master. From what I understand, solar panels' lifespan is 20 years, so we're 10 years in now. So you're saying 25 years from the time we purchase it, so so you're going to have to replace many of those solar panels within 10 years from now, from what I understand, and these are older solar panels, so maybe the newer ones have a better life expectancy, so that's the question.
I'm sorry, what is the question?
So if a solar panel lifespan, from what I understand, is about 20 years expected, ones that were made 10 years ago especially, maybe newer ones that are recently made have longer expectancy, then after, let's say, 10 years from now, what happens when these solar panels go? You're going to get rid of these and replace them with new ones?
Okay, I understand.
And what happens to the old solar panels? Yeah.
Good questions, thank you. So as I just said, the panels are warranted for 25 years. So no, from the time that they were initially installed. So we've got another 15 years of warranty coverage on the panels. They should produce well beyond that. They do degrade a little bit each year. That's expected and predictable, and that's also built into the calculations. I'm glad you asked about what happens when they do fail, because that question has come up a couple of times in select board meetings, and it's a good question. We expect, right now, there are companies who are beginning to recycle solar panels. They're made of aluminum, glass, silicon, silver, copper, very recyclable materials. And at this time, there's really not much scale because there aren't many old solar panels that are coming out of the field. But it's anticipated in the industry that that will become a business unto itself, to be able to recycle solar panels. So I can't say that's going to happen, but that's what's expected.
Any other questions? There are no other. Mr. Atwood, wait for the microphone. You can sit down, sir.
I got two questions. One, is there anything else that the land can be used, like for grazing goats or something, to provide income?
I don't see why not. I mean, grass grows there.
And any of the construction projects that I've been involved with personally, we looked at analyzed the project, and at the end, what we had forgotten was the idiot factor. And that was usually about 25% over what we had estimated.
25% of cost? Well, so Bill, the system's already built. I think what a lot of that would come out of construction. And so that's already there. The only real variable is, will the system perform as expected? I was in the solar industry for over a dozen years, and all of the systems that I was involved in, unless there was some initial problem with the construction, they've performed as expected.
Thank you. Any further questions? There being none, we will move on, and you may vote on this tomorrow during the hours of 9 a.m., 7 p.m. on the second floor. We move to Article 5. So the next series of articles on the warning will require a vote by the body, will not be voted on at the balloting tomorrow. And so I just remind you that when I read the article, I'm going to ask for a motion to put the article on the floor, and if you want to make that motion, should raise your hand, be identified, and make the motion that you want to make. We need a second to that motion, and the seconder will also have to stand and second it and be identified. And once we have the motion on the floor, I'm going to reread the article, and then there will be an opportunity for discussion. And after discussion, there being no further discussion, we'll vote whether to adopt the article as written or as amended. And that will be by a voice vote, yea or nay. If it's necessary that we need to, because it's not certain what the end result of the voice vote was, we can do a division of the House. And if the division of the House by people standing and then being counted is not sufficient and others feel there should be a paper ballot, then if there are 7 people who request that we vote by paper ballot, then we will vote on that article by paper ballot. We will see how this proceeds, but I just tell you that that's the process for the next series of articles on the warning. So we will move to Article 5. To see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing for the purchase of a police cruiser for the police department in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to be financed for a term of 4 years. This equipment is replacing existing equipment at the end of useful life and is not an addition to the town inventory. Is there a motion on Article 5? Moved by Deborah Aldrich and seconded by Penny Benelli. The article on the floor for discussion is to see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing for the purchase of a police cruiser for the police department in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to be financed for a term of 4 years. This equipment is replacing existing equipment at the end of its useful life and is not an addition to the town inventory. Is there any discussion on Article 5? Yes, ma'am, you are.
Charlie Baker. I was wondering, what is the age of the vehicle that we're replacing?
Is there anybody who can answer that question? What is the age of the vehicle being replaced?
Our police cruisers have a life of 4 to 5 years, and the reason they rotate that often is because of idle time. It's not necessarily miles driven, but idle time, and they're usually well over 100,000 miles by the time we trade them in. Yeah. We found that that's the sweet spot, Deb, where we can also get a good trade-in value at the same time.
Thank you, Julie Hance. Are there any further questions on this article? There being no further questions, then we will move to see if we will approve Article 5, to see if the town of Chester will vote to approve borrowing for the purchase of police cruiser for the police department in an amount not to exceed $70,000 to be financed for a term of 4 years. This equipment is replacing existing equipment at the end of useful life and is not an addition to the town inventory. All in favor of Article 5, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 5 passes. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise $4,225,000 to be paid to the Chester Town Treasurer on September 16, 2025, to pay current expenses and any part of the town's indebtedness. Is there a motion on Article 6?
Do you want my presentation first, Bill, or the motion first?
We're going to, let us put the motion on the floor, then you can make the presentation. And Deb Aldrich, you appear to be ready to do something. Article 6 is moved by Deb Aldrich and seconded by? On the floor, we have for discussion and first for further presentation by Julie Hance, the article to see if the town will vote to raise $4,225,000 to be paid to the Chester Town Treasurer on September 16, 2025, to pay current expenses and any part of the town's indebtedness. Our town manager, Julie Hance, has a presentation on this article.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, everybody, for coming out to town meeting. It's good attendance this year, which I like. So quickly, I'm going to try to get through this. I am losing my voice, so hopefully I can make it through the presentation. But I was just going to give a brief update for each of the town departments, share with you briefly some of the highlights of 2024, what we're anticipating for 2025, and then we'll do a brief overview of the budget numbers themselves, as well as the capital plan. So we start in general government. Sue, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. Starting in general government is made up of the town office, listers and zoning. So obviously, again, want to big thanks to the front office staff. And again, Debbie is retiring after 42 years. I've been with her for 20. Been a lot of really good years. But we are very lucky. Debbie is going to be staying with us part-time as town treasurer, which is great. So a reminder, Debbie's retirement party is at the Legion on April 26th from 5 to 9. Swing in, say hi, wish her well, although she's not going too far. And we will be asking in March for the select board to be appointing Amy O'Brien as the town clerk. Amy has been serving as our assistant town clerk for a number of years now. Seven years. So Debbie has been prepping Amy over this past year to slide into that position as well. So the select board will be presenting that to the select board on March 19th. For zoning, Preston, Hugh, and Kathy do a fantastic job holding down planning and zoning office. If you remember last year, we created a position for another full-time individual, full-time person to work between listers and zoning. That was Hugh Quinn, who is also chair of our planning commission. So Hugh has been in for most of 2024 and doing a fabulous job. So Preston is getting ready to retire mid-2025. He will be staying on part-time as our town planner and serving in that capacity, but he will be taking over as zoning administrator at that time. And there are several moving pieces on the lister side, several moving pieces in the legislature that are going to affect assessing in the state of Vermont and its impact to municipalities. So the listers are watching those bills very closely. They will have an impact regardless of the result. So we are watching those closely. But for Chester, we have a CLA of 66.02%. So Chester, of course, will be reappraising. We have contracted with Nemrick, who did our last appraisal in 2018. Nemrick will be doing this appraisal again, and that is anticipated to begin the beginning of the year in 2027. And we'll be sending notifications as that process unfolds as time goes on. So I just want to give a quick thank you to the Development Review Board, the Planning Commission. These are two boards that work very hard in writing the bylaws in our town and in issuing conditional uses, subdivisions, those quasi-judicial style permits. They work very hard. I just want to thank them. They are often very unrecognized positions and often get a lot of flack for what they do. So I just want to give a shout out to them, give them thanks. Those are basically volunteer positions. Next slide. So this year, one of the things that was very active in 2024 is our Housing Commission. In 2023, the Select Board established a Housing Commission for Chester. And 2024 was their first full year of being very active. They have a few parcels in town that are being evaluated as potential development sites in the future. You will see on this town warning, we'll vote on it, I think, the next article, an article to establish a reserve fund for the Housing Commission. This is to be able to spend money on things like appraisals and different types of things that are going to be needed as housing development comes down the road. What we are proposing for funding this reserve fund would be registration fees that come in from short-term rentals. That money will transfer from the general fund into the reserve fund at the end of each year. So that's how it will start. It will not hit the taxpayers. We are looking at other potential sources of revenue. Again, not wanting to hit the tax base, so finding other sources of income that can fund that reserve fund. But this is the start, is establishing the fund is necessary first. A feasibility study, I know many have heard about this already. The town received a grant to complete a feasibility study on the 139-acre parcel that we own south of town. The Housing Commission is looking at the potential of developing this for a neighborhood, potential neighborhood, many years down the road. It's a long process. We're in the very early stages. On March 18th, from 4 to 7, up here at Town Hall, the Housing Commission is holding an open house. It's going to be, there'll be boards set up with SE Group where you can learn about what's going on with this process, vote, you can share your opinions, gain more information. I would encourage everybody to come. We want to hear from the community at the very beginning of this process, not later down the road, because it will require some community buy-in at some point later. There's efforts that will be done in collaboration with the school. We've had some of those conversations early on. So again, March 18th, come in, learn a little more about it. Again, we're in the early planning phases, and give us your feedback. And I want to thank two of our founding members, Nancy Pennell and Bill Lindsay, both started with the Housing Commission. They have, for various reasons, have stepped off this year, but I want to thank them. Nancy was our chair for our first year. Joe Carl has taken over that position. But again, thank you to both of you for your time and commitment to the Housing Commission. We really appreciate it. March 19th, the Select Board will be making appointments. There are 2 seats open. If anybody's interested in serving on the Housing Commission, just get me a letter of intent. And then we will move on from general government over to public safety. Public safety is made up of police, fire, ambulance. Public safety obviously has been busy in 2024. These departments, I will tell you, accomplish a whole lot with very limited staffing, and that is because of their efforts in cross-training and collaboration. Chester is setting a model that there are other agencies around the state are kind of looking at what we are doing. Examples are all of our police officers are certified first responders. So police cruiser companies, pretty much every ambulance call. So you have an instant first responder there while the ambulance gets itself en route. We have multiple cross trainings between fire and ambulance as well. So when a call comes in, you have our 3 chiefs are pretty much all cross-trained. And when a call comes in, a truck goes out the door almost immediately. Between the 3 chiefs and Steve, who is our facilities director, who is also the captain of our fire department and a first responder. By being able to do that, we have really increased response times and are giving much better quality of response. What was it?
Decreased response times.
Decreased response times. Sorry. But anyways, you know what I mean. So CPD, Chester Police, is at full capacity now with 5 full-time staff. We do have 2 part-time positions open, but this is first time this year that we have had 5 full-time officers. Chief Williams and his department have done a great job continuing with our community policing efforts in Chester. I get calls frequently, comments made to me frequently about how much people are supportive and thankful for the community policing efforts. So big shout out to our police department and Chief Williams for running that department and switching things around there. The CPD also works very closely with the Citizen Advisory Committee, which was established a couple of years ago. This is a forum that provides discussion between the community and the police department. Again, couple positions open on that. If anybody is interested in serving, shoot me an email. The other big initiative that the police department is working on this year is the establishment of the CERT program, which is a Certified Emergency Response Team. And it's a CERT team is utilized during emergency events, so it's basically made up of civilians that are trained at certain levels, and when there's an event like a flooding event, they are dispatched to different areas, help with road closures, those types of things. So that is a team that is just beginning to be set up. The training is beginning now for the trainers. If anybody has interest in serving in that way in our community, please reach out to the police department. We are gathering a list of names of those interested. I believe we have 15 to 20 spots. Thumbs up, 15 to 20 spots, yes, okay. Available, so please reach out again to Chester PD if you're interested in that. I will briefly touch on the collapse of the carport. This was an addition to the slide. So the carport was a structure that was donated to the town sadly in memory of the individual's brother. It was a contract between this gentleman and a builder out of North Carolina that they wanted to build on our land. So the contract is not between the town and the builder, but it is on town property. So we are working with them to remove the structure. There was damage to a cruiser underneath, which our insurance is covering. And there was damage to a police officer's personal vehicle, which is being managed through insurance as well. And this structure will be removed. This structure will not be replaced on town property. So we have some stuff in the works there, but just so that everybody is aware, it is being worked on. It is not being removed at this moment because I need to dot all I's and cross all T's before the evidence is gone. So just wanted to give everybody an update on where that's at, because I'm sure you drive by and see that and think, what in the world? Anyway, so we'll move on to fire department. Responded to 190 fire calls this year in 2024. Many of you know, beginning of last year, Chief Wilson retired in January. Chief Whalen filled in and then took a great career advancing position in the town of Ludlow. So Chester Fire took a little bit of a step back to figure out our needs for our chief. We are very happy to announce midway through last year, Chief Scott Richardson came to us. We dragged him out of retirement from Springfield to help us here in Chester. Scott brings a tremendous number of years of knowledge and wisdom to the team and has been a great asset to us. So we are very thankful for him. Him and I have a standing joke about how long he will be here. So a quick heads up, the new tanker truck that was ordered a couple years ago is going to arrive in the next couple of weeks. Reminder, when you see this tanker truck, that it was funded through a grant. $452,000 was grant funded. The match is $26,300 is coming to us from the Yosemite Engine Company, and the capital plan is paying the remaining $37,000 match. Those funds were raised a couple of years ago. So you will see that when we have it. We have talked about having an open house for the community to come in and check out the new truck. Chester Ambulance responded to 546 calls in 2024. This is combined 911 and interfacility transfer service. So the arrival of the new ambulance at the end of 2024 brought the addition of the interfacility transfer program, utilizing Chester's old ambulance. It's a one-year program. We're doing it as a trial. We are finding it to be very busy. The revenue generated from the transfer service was $37,000 in just the month of December. So many transfer service throughout the state of Vermont, many may know, is becoming a real problem. If you are in Springfield Hospital and need to get to Dartmouth or to Boston or to Hartford or to any other facility, you can often wait in a hospital for days before you have the ability to be transferred because there are not ambulances staffed and able to do those transfers. But they are paid for through insurance. So utilizing our second ambulance in this way is a revenue generator for the town and provides a service to people in our communities so that they're not having to sit in that hospital for days on end. So Mike handed me the numbers. We have budgeted for this year for revenue for ambulance at $350,000 between the transfer service and 911 call response. Through the end of February, our revenue is already at $99,000. So we will far exceed. Again, we want to take baby steps, and we want to make sure that we're fully aware of what we're getting into by taking this on as a new addition to the department. So again, this is a one-year trial to see how it works. But so far, it is proving to be very positive. I will also say that Chief Ranzio, huge shout out to Chief Ranzio, been very busy building the department. A lot of in-house trainings. All of our EMT and advanced EMT classes are now able to be trained in-house, which saves the town a lot of money and allows us to add more to our department. We are doing extensive amount of community CPR and AED classes. If you have a business and would like our ambulance department to come in and train your staff on basic CPR or usage of your AED monitors, please reach out to Chester Ambulance. They will absolutely come in and do that training for you. And Mike started at the transfer service, and because he was not busy enough, we sent him to paramedic school. So Mike is also, Chief Ranzio, I should say, is also in paramedic school. The select board's approved the adoption of a paramedic program in Chester in 2024. Mike is, Chief Ranzio is now in paramedic school to be completed in, I believe, early September. And the plan is, as many may remember, the plan was that in 2026, Chester will start looking at the community paramedicine program. Which there will be a lot more coming out on that. It is a move that the state of Vermont is also looking at, given the healthcare system in the state of Vermont and the decline in the difficulty in being able for office visits. There's a lot of things that can be done through paramedicine that saves our taxpayers money, our citizens money, I should say, and reduces recurrence to the hospital. So stay tuned for that as well. I'll move on to Public Works. So Public Works is made up of highway and cemetery. Again, I want to brag on my people. Highway department is an amazing crew. I hear it all the time. We are very blessed in what we have for a town of, I think, 97 miles of dirt road, 78 bridges, thousands of culverts. Per capita, we are one of the largest road miles in the state for dirt road, and the largest number of bridges. Our guys build bridges. So what I can tell you is we save hundreds of thousands of dollars in not having to go out to bid, not having to hire in engineers and hiring contractors to do our bridges. So huge shout out to these guys for the work that they do. 2024, many may remember, started with a not very nice mud season due to a very light winter. We are hoping, since it's been kind of not light winter this year, that we will have a good mud season. So the highway crew in 2024 completed several large projects, included, again, culvert to bridge replacement on Green Mountain Turnpike, ditch work, 5 culvert replacements on Amston Hill, paving Andover Road to include replacement of 13 cross culverts. Those are the big projects. Those projects were all grant funded. In addition, there were several standard ditching projects they do, as well as road resurfacing. All of Popple Dungeon was road resurfaced, Goldthwaite and parts of Lovers Lane. Those funds were all done through 406 mitigation grant funds. And then with the assistance of large structures grants in 2025, we're going to replace 2 bridges on Wyman's Falls, a bridge on Smokeshear, and a large culvert on Old Stage Road. FEMA mitigation funds, again, are being used to resurface several roads as well as riprap in several locations. Again, riprapping from where there was flood damage in July. In addition, grant funds were received to complete the scoping study for the sidewalk to the high school. That is underway. We should have results of that in the next couple of months. And then many people I know have seen, you can't miss them, the new signs in town that were installed in spring. The remainder of the signs, the Village Gateway signs, will be installed this coming spring, which completes that project. And then we will just give another shout out to the cemetery department, group office often under-recognized. We have 2 employees in the cemetery department that manage 7 cemeteries, and 12 grounds for 12 town parcels are managed by 2 individuals. And they do it very well. So in 2024, using monies from trustee of public funds, the department replaced a stone retaining wall and culvert. It was a large project at the North Street Cemetery. And this year, the Pleasant Brook Cemetery is being surveyed for expansion of sites. And before Lane leaves, so Lane is our superintendent of schools. If anybody did not go to or see the presentation on the school budget, I would strongly recommend that you connect with them. Lane did a phenomenal job explaining the school budget in a way that was very understandable. So highly, highly, highly recommend that you reach out to the SU and get access to that presentation. It was very well done. Thank you, Lane. Thanks, Lane. See you later. So then recreation. Chester has amazing recreation facilities. Huge thank you to Matt, who does a great job with the facilities here in town. In addition to the facilities, often what people don't realize is that Chester youth sports are not run through our schools. They're run through the rec department. So Matt runs all the youth sports for town, as well as coordinating several adult programs that we now have, mostly adult exercise programs. If you have ideas for adult programs, please reach out to Matt. He's always looking for things to do to add for the adults as well. Matt also is very handy and so works very well with Steve, our facilities director, in getting construction projects done in town as well. He's currently painting our building, the inside of our building. In 2024, we added the asphalt pickleball courts, which were installed in the old ice rink, and improvements were made to the pumps in the pool house. In 2025, this budget includes fencing the pickleball court, and those who play pickleball are going to be very thankful for the fencing around the court. Some improvements to the baseball field, finally has some upgrades to the baby pool, and some renovations to the bathhouse. We are looking ahead that the bathhouse in Chester is very old, and it's iconic, so we'd like to keep it, but there are necessary repairs coming. We are going to do as much work as we can in-house to buy us some time, because the renovation of that building is close to $400,000 to $500,000. So we are again, we're going to buy ourselves some time and come up with a good plan of what we want to do with that facility. Thank you, Matt. Does a fabulous job, as always, in the rec department. So facilities, there is a facility section in our budget, breaks down library, town hall, the rec facility, historic buildings, and public safety. Facilities director, Steve, I say this all the time, I can't possibly quantify how many dollars he actually saves the town. Between him and Matt and Wayne Wickens, who works in the sewer department but is also a master electrician, save the town a lot of money. Steve is always very busy. Library this year is showing a slight increase. That is due to salaries and benefits for library staff. And one of the big projects at the library this year is the replacement of the sprinkler system, which is over 30 years old. It is well beyond, and it's starting to have failure points. So you will see in the capital plan that this is one of the uses for some of the remaining ARPA funds, is the installation of the sprinkler system. And that will also include upgrade to lighting and the ceiling replacement in the basement, which has been long overdue. For Yosemite, window restoration work has finally been completed. That was done through a grant. And 2025 is going to include some plaster renovation at the Academy building and potentially painting of the cupola. New electrical upgrades have been made, or are in the process of being made up here at Town Hall, so that we can have some enhanced performances up here in this space. Again, that work is being done by Wayne Wickens and Steve. So one of the big things to announce is that the town received the Municipal Energy Resiliency Grant. We were awarded $499,000 with no match. And it is to be used for on three municipal buildings for energy improvements. So the work that will be done in 2025 is for Town Hall. It will be the installation of this attic and new heat pump units to be installed throughout the building. We will retain the propane system as a backup. At the library, there will be insulation in the attic, ADA improvements to the downstairs bathroom and the Vermont room, and new heat pump unit in the basement, replacing an old unit there. And then most of the funds will be spent at the Academy building, insulation in the attic, exterior storm windows, heat pump units throughout that building, backup propane system, ADA improvements to the bathroom, and the installation of a lift to the second floor. So what that does is that makes that building usable year-round. And again, That has no impact on your tax base. That is not paid for by our local dollars. It is paid by our federal dollars, but not our local dollars. It is grant funded. So grants, in addition to some grants already mentioned, we received several grants in 2024. End of 23 was the urban forestry grant for tree removal and plantings in the village. You're going to see that happen early this spring. We have 7 bank stabilization projects throughout town, 4 property buyouts in floodplains, downtown transportation funds for improvements to the green, which are going to include electrifying the green for events in the future, generator for the Jeffrey Well, final Route 35 improvement projects, update to the town's erosion, road, and sidewalk inventories, and more FEMA 506 mitigation funds. I should explain quickly, FEMA 406 mitigation funds is when you have an event like we did in July, for the amount of dollars that you spend on a section of road, you can apply for additional mitigation funds. So the benefit of that is if a road costs us $100,000 to bring back to pre-flood condition, FEMA pays 90% of that. The state of Vermont pays 7.8% of that, leaving the town with 2.2%. So when we can apply for 406 mitigation funds for that same dollar, so we can take the $100,000 and apply for an additional $100,000 at those same terms. So we can get $200,000 worth of work for 2.2%. That is the cost to the town. So the advantage is we want as much of that as we can get for such limited dollars to do work that we know we need to do. So Popple Dungeon Road is a perfect example. Popple Dungeon hadn't been resurfaced in years. So for the flood, we had to bring it back to pre-flood condition. But we were able to use the 406 mitigation funds to completely resurface Popple Dungeon Road. So that's another $168,000 that we were able to get in to resurface that road that did not hit our local tax dollars. So that's what 406 mitigation funds are. With the funds that we've applied for and been approved, we'll have about $800,000 in 406 mitigation dollars. Our match, our 2.2% match of those dollars, will be able to be paid for through our reimbursements that we receive from FEMA. When FEMA reimburses us for a project, we get reimbursed at rates that are higher than what we actually expend out. So you get reimbursed, it opens up a whole nother can of worms, but when you get reimbursed, you're reimbursed at your fringe rate. So our highway dollars are monies that we have already budgeted. So those dollars are now no longer spent in your highway budget, they're spent out of your flood budget. Okay, so that frees up dollars here. But the other thing that happens is when you're reimbursed at rates for your equipment usage, which is not actual cash outlaid. I mean, it's an expense, right, in long-term depreciation, but it's not cash outlay. You're reimbursed those dollars. So you end up at the end of a disaster, often with a surplus. The other thing that we are able to be reimbursed is my time at my fringe benefit rate, capped at 5% of our total project costs. For Chester, that's $3 million. So we can reimburse us 5% of $3 million to reimburse me, which again is money already budgeted. So our 2.2% will be paid out of those dollars, so it doesn't actually hit our tax base, if that makes sense. Hopefully I explained that in a way that makes sense. So 2024 budget wrap up. Again, thanks to the diligence of department managers, the town ended with a surplus of approximately $69,000. This surplus is being used to build the fund balance. Again, our fund balance is on the lower side. 2023, we had a deficit, so this helps offset that deficit. And then for 2025, this budget reflects a level service budget, not level funded, level service, meaning this is, with no new services added, this is the budget that it costs to run the town at current service. No new programs, no new positions being proposed or added for 2025. The operations budget is an increase of 3.89%, which is approximately the rate of inflation. This year, we have the second half of the principal payment to the public safety building, which is $88,000, which equals just about 2%. So you have a total of 5.89% increase this year from those two items. And the 3.89% increase is basically cost of living increases for salary, health insurance, those benefits, again, at the rate of inflation. This also includes the purchase of a used vehicle for the facilities director. When he put his foot through the bed of his truck, we decided it was probably time for a new one, but he's getting a used one. And this is also because of some savings in highway. So I will just say quickly, we fought hard and were able to get access to the rivers during the July flood. So we had equipment in the rivers getting back that debris that came from our road to plug the river. We want back on our road or in our pit, because those are gravel dollars that we've already spent. So we have a pretty good pile. So there were some savings that were able to be generated for this year and likely into 26 from that gravel extraction that we were able to get done. And I'll quickly go to the capital plan. Proposed for 2025, 2 items. The grader is beyond its useful life, and paving for Flamstead, it will not be paving the whole road, it will be paving the worst sections. We want to keep bonds down, knowing that we are also asking for a very large bond for the sewer projects. So we want the focus to be on that. We are foregoing the purchase of a dump truck for 2025. We are extending one of the trucks. So the only ask this year is the grader and some money for paving. I will say that one of the things that happened in 2024 that you will see, the 2024 bonds were underspent by $95,000 because bids for paving Andover Road came back at an exceptional price. So these dollars have to be drawn. We can't just not draw them. You have to draw them because it's a bond. So we are drawing those $95,000, but we are using those dollars to pay off the last payments of prior bonds. So we have 3 loans, bonds and/or loans for highway that 2025 would be the last year. So these dollars are going to pay off those last payments so that you're still receiving the same benefit. The other thing we have to expend this year is the remaining $157,000 of ARPA funds. These are being used to purchase the ambulance monitor for the new ambulance, sprinkler system for the library, and the overdue communications equipment for public safety is the plan there. And I've been saying it for a couple years now. We are actually underway in developing the inventories that we need to actually put together the asset management plan, and a true capital plan for Chester is the big project for 2025. And then just water and wastewater, these are departments that are not voted on at town meeting. These are enterprise funds, but I do like to give an update. So a lot is happening in these two departments in the next 2 to 3 years. Number one, right now, we are replacing water meters. Water meters were replaced 20 years ago. Many are starting to fail. They have a 20-year life, and they're not reading accurately, and some are just failing. So the select board approved the purchase and installation of new water meters. Water, wastewater, working on that now. That will bring about an evaluation once they're fully in. We would then have the ability to bill monthly if we choose to. We'll do an evaluation of that, see how people feel about that. If nothing else, we probably would move to billing commercial properties monthly, which helps our cash flow and helps them. Most businesses would prefer to pay monthly versus quarterly. So there will be some changes coming in that. Of course, the Depot Street Force Main Gravity Feed and First Avenue Pump Station, we had that presentation tonight. I can't emphasize enough the need for this project. It is long overdue. If it doesn't get done, it will be very expensive. And Jeffrey Wells site, we received a grant to install a generator. That generator will be ordered soon, will be installed hopefully 2025, likely early 2026. And then the secondary well is still under investigation for a backup supply, likely would not hit until 26 sometime. And so just, budget, 2025 budget reflects an increase of $249,000, approximately 5.89% increase. We're asking for the support. This is what it takes to run this town at the capacity and the service that we have now. We feel that it's a responsible budget and are asking for support. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am. Wait for a microphone, please. And then you may state your name.
My finance director, all right.
Yeah. I'm Lori Roser, and I do work for the town, and I'm also a resident of Chester. Julie talks very, very fast. And I don't know if you guys could distinguish between what the taxes are going to pay and the grants that Julie gets for the town. So Julie, I have a question for you. Approximately how many dollars in grants did you get for the town in 2024? Approximate.
I think right around $3 million.
$3 million she brought in. And I think that's really important because before working for the town, I did not realize that grants really support the town. So just keep that in mind when you go and vote.
Thank you, Lori.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. And wait, please, for the microphone and state your name.
Vicki Master, I'm curious when you say you'll be replacing the water meters, what do you mean by that? Is that for each home, or I'm not sure what you mean by water meters. Thank you.
So in your basement, and Jeff, get ready. In your basement, for those that are on municipal water and wastewater, in your basement is a water meter, and it registers how much water per 1,000 gallons goes through that meter. It's what measures your usage. That usage is then used to calculate your sewer, because we assume what comes in goes out. And so there is on that meter, there is a register on the top. The meter, the base of the meter itself will stay. The register on the top is what goes bad, and so that is what is being replaced. Did I get it?
Close.
20 years it's taken me.
You are?
Jeff Holden. The main thing that's failing now is the old antennas. They have a solid state battery in there. They were warranted for 20 years, and they're right on the cusp of starting to fail. And that was a radio read system that I used to have to drive around and pick up all the signals with a radio reader every 3 months. And with the new system, it's going to be through the cellular service, and it'll be coming right into the office, into Amy's computer. And it'll be sending a signal every 4 hours. So we will be updated a lot sooner if there's a water leak in the house or something, and something like that. I've seen leaks in the house that would go for like 2 months because I'd read the meters and nobody was there, and the basements were full of water. So it's going to possibly save the residents and our cost for pumping water as well. So it'll be a much more streamlined and accurate system that will, I think, save us money in the long run.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Are there other questions?
That's municipal water. No, we do not monitor private wells. You're welcome.
Further questions? There being no further questions, then we will vote on Article 7 to see if we will, Article 6, excuse me, to see if we will vote to raise $4,225,000 to be paid to the town of Chester treasurer on September 16, 2025, to pay current expenses and any part of the town's indebtedness. All in favor of the motions indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Aye has it. The article is passed. Article 7.
Thank you.
Shall the voters establish a housing reserve fund as a means to receive ongoing sources of funding to support the preservation and production of housing and increased opportunities for families and individuals to access affordable houses and homes in Chester? Is there a motion on Article 7? Yes, sir.
Bill Lindsay, I move the article as printed.
Seconded by?
Second.
Moved and seconded to see if the voters shall establish a housing reserve fund as a means to receive ongoing sources of funding to support the preservation and production of housing and increase opportunities for families and individuals to access affordable homes in Chester. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Yes, sir. You are?
Bill Lindsay. The need for establishing a housing reserve is a must to be able to lock on to grants and other financial items that would be needed to move a housing project forward. The only question I have on this is I have a little concern when we have an article to establish a reserve with no dollar amount. So if someone on the board would address what the dollar amount is to establish this for an ongoing basis. Thank you.
So, Bill, Julie Hanson, this is just simply establishing the fund.
Correct.
We have to establish the fund. Then, by the adoption of the budget, we are using to fund the fund, once it's established. The dollars would come from the short-term rental registration fees. So that dollar amount anticipated for 2025 would be $24,000.
Okay.
And that's within the general fund budget.
And that was carried within the
That's
general
carried
fund
within the budget, correct.
Okay, so any additions to this fund any additions to this fund would be probably a warrant article or a subject of a selectmen's meeting.
It would be a subject of a select board meeting. I am not anticipating putting before the voters something that taxpayers would be funding this. We're going to be looking at other revenue streams. But yes, certainly the select board is going to have something to say about it.
Thank you.
Further questions on this article? There being no further questions, we'll vote to see if we, as voters, will establish a housing reserve fund as a means to receive ongoing sources of funding to support the preservation and production of housing and increase opportunities for families and individuals to access affordable homes in Chester. All in favor of this article indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The article has passed. Article 8. To see if the town will vote to exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by the Gassets Grange number 327. The municipal taxes in 2024 for the Gassets Grange number 327 were $1,215 and were $1,215 for municipal taxes for 2024 and $2,180 for education taxes for 2024. Is there a motion on Article 8? Yes, ma'am. You are. So the article has been moved by and seconded by? Moved and seconded to see if the town will vote to exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by the Gassets Grange number 327. The municipal taxes in 2024 for the Gassets Grange number 327 were $1,215 and $2,180 for education. Is there any discussion on this article? Yes, ma'am. Would you please wait for Nancy? Would you please wait for?
You think you need it?
Yeah.
I just wondered if there's someone from the Grange who could speak to this. I think it's important that if they're looking for an adjustment of some kind like that, maybe there's someone here that could speak to it.
Are there anyone behind Nancy who would like to speak? The two people, and please, you are?
I'm Robert Carlton. I've been a long-time member of the town of Chester. I belong, and we've always had a tax exemption from the town, so we didn't have to pay our taxes because the Grange is a dying organization. People don't understand that. If it wasn't for the Grange, you people be paying the high prices on your produce and stuff.
Robert, thank you. And you are, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Charlene Start. So just, I don't know if you all read the program or at all, but on 119 it does tell you what we do. As far as we do buy dictionaries for the third graders every year. We do help your seniors here in the center. 36 of them receive gifts every year from the Gassets Grange. We are available for emergency use for your fire departments as well as your police departments. If something should happen and someone need to go to be warm because their house is burning, we're available for that. So not only do we help the community, but we also try to provide services for the community. And these are one of the reasons why we are asking that you give us an exemption on our taxes. Is there any questions?
Any further questions on this article? There being no further questions, thank you both. We will vote to see if we will exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by the Gassets Grange number 327. The municipal taxes in 2024 for the Gassets Grange number 327 were $1,215 and $2,180 for education. All in favor of Article 8 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 8 passes. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by the Chester Rod and Gun Club. The municipal taxes in 2024 for the Chester Rod and Gun Club were $1,869 and $3,354 for education. Do we have a motion on Article 9? And you are? Move, and is there a second? Moved and seconded. Are we good, Amy? All right. So the motion has been moved and seconded, or the article has been moved and seconded, to see if the town will exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by the Chester Rod and Gun Club. The municipal taxes in 2024 for the Chester Rod and Gun Club were $1,869 and $3,354 for education. Is there any discussion on Article 9? Yes, sir, and you are?
Paul Stoddard. I'm the president of the Chester Rod and Gun Club, and we're asking your support tonight. First of all, the mission of our club is to preserve the heritage of hunting, shooting, angling for our local members. Our club offers, just to give you a quick rundown, I'll keep this short, we offer sporting clays, we have trap shooting, skeet shooting, we have a 100-yard range, a 50-yard range. We offer hunter education classes twice a year. We have archery education classes. We have firearms training and education available. We sponsor a fishing derby for the youths every year. And we also sponsor students to go to the Green Mountain Conservation Camp every year. It's very important that we receive this year, as a large portion of our range has washed away, and we're working on remediation, and we expect the expenses for that to be over $100,000. We offer all this for a very nominal dues fee. So we seek your support. I do have representatives from the state police that would like to speak on our behalf.
Thank you, Paul. Please state your name.
Thank you for letting me speak to this forum in which I know none of you. My name is Corporal Gary Salvatore with the Vermont State Police. I've been a member of the State Police since 2004, certified firearms instructor since 2007. To some of you, I may be old. Some of you, I may be young. All right. Yeah, I've been instructing and training proficiencies and teaching new troopers firearm safety and tactics for almost 17 years now. I've been using the Chester range for over 10 years now. We utilize this range to the best benefit we can, and the president and all its members are very welcoming to us in this setting, and we would appreciate the continued support. And if there's any questions that you may have for the state police in reference firearms or training of youth or anyone who's interested, they could reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to extend our helping hand in that matter.
Thank you. Are there further comments? Thank you both for coming out tonight.
Bill?
All of you for coming out tonight. Is there a further comment?
Yeah, Julie Hantz. I will also say that your local police officers qualify, do their qualification and skills training at the Rod and Gun Club as well. So it does directly impact local as well.
Further questions or comments on this article? Bill? Arnie.
Arnie Janinas. Paul, you're saying that you're working to mitigate flood damage that's going on there. Do you see that as a reoccurring problem in the future because of its location?
We've had to jump through some hoops with the state on this, and we've had to hire some design engineers to design a reparation project that will, according to their specifications, should withstand future erosion.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments on this art? Yes? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Judy Hallberg, and I'm a resident of Chester. I'd like to know if members of the Rod and Gun Club pay dues to be members.
Paul, could you grab the mic, please? This is recorded in posterity.
Yes, our members do pay dues. It's a nominal fee. It's $40 a year. It nowhere near covers expenses. We get some funds from the shooting events and such. The membership is open to the public. It's not limited. Anybody can be a member. So it's, like I said, $40 a year doesn't really cover a lot, especially when we're facing over $100,000 repair.
Do the state and local agencies that use your facility for testing and training, do they pay any fees for that?
The law enforcement officials are all free. Chester Police, State Police, Fish and Game are all allowed to use the member range at no charge.
Further questions or comments on this article? There being none, we will vote. To see if the town will exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by Chester Rod and Gun Club. Municipal taxes in 2024 for the Chester Rod and Gun Club were $1,869 and $3,354 for education. All in favor of the article indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article passes. Article 10. To see if the town will vote to exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by the Green Mountain Softball, Inc. Could you all go outside, please? Thank you. Keep pushing them, Julie. To see if the town on Article 10 will vote to exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by Green Mountain Softball, Inc. Municipal taxes for 2024 for Green Mountain Softball, Inc. were $772 and $1,386 for education. Is there a motion on Article 10? Moved by Nick Boak, seconded by? Seconded by, of course, Ann Lamb. Any further action to be taken after I read the moved article? We'll proceed after it's read, meaning to say I'm catching myself. To see if the town will vote to exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by Green Mountain Softball, Inc. Municipal taxes in 2024 for the Green Mountain Softball, Inc. were $772 and $1,386 for education. Any discussion on this Article 10? There being no discussion?
I have a question. Is there anyone to speak to this club?
Kurt Blanchard, I'm the president of the Green Mountain Softball League. We have also been ravished by the flood, especially July of 2023. If it hadn't been for Shane Fuller and John Sulia, we probably would never be playing softball in that facility again. They have put in countless hours, money, you name it. This is also where the middle school and the Green Mountain High School girls play softball. Luckily, they had one field back to normal last year, so this was able to take place. We are still way behind the 8 ball. We have to have all the electricity redone. We can't get grandfathered in anymore. We had to, before the flood, we asked Green Mountain Power to come and get the meter off the side of the building, which they did. And then the state fire marshal came back and he said that we were going to have to, everything was going to have to be replaced. We have to get a new panel, all new breakers. Our bathroom building is probably 5 feet from where it was, so obviously it's non-usable. We have no idea what we're looking at for money-wise to get everything back to normal. The flood actually took a whole dugout, concrete, slab, and everything. Fences, you name it, it took it.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on this article? There being none, we'll vote to see if we will exempt from municipal and education taxes for a period of 5 years 100% of the fair market value of lands and buildings occupied by Green Mountain Softball, Inc. Municipal taxes in 2024 for Green Mountain Softball, Inc. were $772, and education taxes were $1,386. All in favor of Article 10 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Article 10 passes. Article 11. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $13,807 to help support the home health, maternal and child health and hospice care provided in patients' homes and in community settings by the Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice of Vermont, New Hampshire, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there a motion on Article 11? Ann Lamb moves, seconded by Charlie Baker, to see if we will discuss and then vote to determine if $13,807 will be appropriated to support the home health, maternal, child health, and hospice care provided in patients' homes and in community settings by Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice of Vermont and New Hampshire in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there any discussion on Article 11? There being no discussion on Article 11, we will then, Madam Pennell, would you like a microphone to continue talking?
Nancy Pennell, just wish there was someone here to talk about it.
Any further comments?
I'm just going to go one more time. I just think it's really important when we're being asked to give money outside, you know, that people come and talk about it. And I think the system itself, I've talked about this before, doesn't work so well. I'm just going to say real quick, I would love to see us decide how much money we think we would like to give to charitable organizations that support the community outside of our taxes. Come up with that figure and then let people come to a meeting outside of this and they present themselves and a committee come up with the ones that will be chosen. Just saying, it might be a good idea.
Any further comments or questions on Article 11? Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Where are we?
Right here.
Charlie Baker. None of us thinks we need these sorts of services
Put it closer to the mouth.
until nobody thinks about the services, needing those services until it happens to you. And we had this last year with Tony. We were extremely grateful for that support and so that he could stay at home while he recovered. And so this is very, very important work and I think underappreciated.
Further comments or questions on this article? There being none, we will vote to see if we will appropriate the sum of $13,807 to help support the home health, maternal, and child health and hospice care provided in patients' homes and in community settings by the Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice of Vermont, New Hampshire, in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2891. All in favor of this article indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The article passes. Article 12. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $3,044 to help support outpatient mental health and substance abuse services by the staff of Healthcare and Rehabilitative Services, Inc., in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there a motion to put this article on the floor?
Nancy Pennell, so moved.
Moved by Nancy Pennell, seconded by? To see if we will appropriate the sum of $3,044 to help support outpatient mental health and substance abuse services by the staff of Healthcare and Rehabilitation Services, Inc., in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there any discussion on this article?
Saul Murphy. I just don't know what the company is. Like, do we have any more information about it, or?
Can anybody describe
Yeah, I don't.
who this company is, otherwise known as HCRS?
I'm Robin Bickle, and I live in Chester. I can't tell you all of the ins and outs of HRS, but I will tell you it is it's the big provider of the mental health services in our area that does all kinds of things. From folks with disabilities, helping them to live their lives the way they need to, giving them training and support groups. They also do a lot of the emergency mental health issues. They have a presence in our schools. I work in the Springfield Public Schools, and we need our behavioral interventionists from HCRS to help us help kids learn the social skills they need to stay in a classroom and to help the school and the class function in a reasonable manner. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. They do a lot. They also run some of the houses, mental health houses for people in the area. I wish I could be more articulate, but it is... it has a huge presence and a huge footprint in the social services of the region, of which we are a part.
Thank you. Further comments or questions on this article? There being none, we will now vote on Article 11 to see if we'll appropriate the sum of $3,044 to help support outpatient mental health and substance abuse services. I say 11.
Go to 12.
I was wondering if you're going to read it. That's why I did it.
You know,
Thank you.
I'm just trying to keep up.
We're on 12. The substance is the same. The number doesn't make a difference. So we're voting to see if we'll appropriate the sum of $3,044 to help support outpatient mental health and substance abuse services by the staff of Healthcare and Rehabilitation Services, Inc., in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor of this Article 12 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 12 passes. Article 13. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $3,040 to Southeastern Vermont Community Action, SEVCA, to assist Chester in responding to the emergency needs of the community and providing all available and applicable services to families and individuals in need in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there a motion on Article 13? And you are? Thank you. Seconded by? Lee Dakin seconded, moved and seconded to see if the town will appropriate $3,040 to Southeastern Vermont Community Action, SEVCA, to assist Chester in responding to the emergency needs of the community and providing all available and applicable services to families and individuals in need in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there any discussion on this Article 13? Yes, ma'am. Oh.
Thank you. My name is Liz Cressy. I'm a Chester resident, and I'm also a board member of SEVCA. And I would like to bring your attention to page 110 in the book. In the last year, we have provided over $174,000 to Chester residents. That would be 82 households. We only work with Windsor and Windham counties, and we provide weatherization, emergency heating, emergency housing, VITA tax services, quite a few other items that you can see on that page that I'm not remembering at the moment. But I also wanted to mention that we are required every 3 years to do a community needs assessment, and this year we are finally able to do a larger one. It's coming out on March 15th, and we would really love to have input from our communities. If you would go to sevca.org, it will be there. I'm hoping it will be posted around town and paper copies available at the library, et cetera. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. I've been on the board now only for a couple of years. But SEVCA does great things in our community, and we are mostly funded by the federal government, which, as we know, we're not quite sure what that's going to look like, but we know we're good through 2027. So thank you, and thank you for considering us.
Thank you. Further comments or questions on this article? There being no further comments or questions, we'll vote on this Article 13 to see if we'll appropriate $3,040 to Southern Vermont Community Action, SEVCA, to assist Chester in responding to the emergency needs of the community and providing all available and applicable services to families and individuals in need, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor of Article 13 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 13 passes. Article 14, shall the town of Chester appropriate the sum of $900 to the Women's Freedom Center for general budget support to provide services to women and their children who are experiencing emotional, physical, and/or sexual abuse and are residents of the town, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there a motion on Article 14? Yes, ma'am. Seconded by Nick Boat. Moved and seconded to see if the town will appropriate the sum of $900 to the Women's Freedom Center for general budget support to provide services to women and their children who are experiencing emotional, physical, and/or sexual abuse and are residents of the town, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there any discussion on Article 14? Yes, sir. Wait for the microphone, and you may remain seated.
Philip Atwood. I'm just wondering, where does this entity provide services? Do they have an office? Anybody here tell me any more about it?
Could anyone respond to the question? Yes, sir, we have, the microphone is on its way.
Thank you. Larry Simonis. I can't speak really much about this, except I know this same group 3 or 4 years ago. This came up, no one knew what to do, and the police chief spoke up and said, we have used them numerous times in the past year. Unfortunately, it looks like Chief Williams is gone now, so I don't know if Julie can share anything, or, but our local police department at that meeting spoke up and said it's a service that is used frequently by the town. The report is on page 105 in the annual report if you want to read it.
So you heard that 105, the annual report, could provide additional information. Further questions or comments on this article? Then we will proceed to vote on Article 14 to see if we will appropriate $900 to the Women's Freedom Center for general budget support to provide services to women and their children who are experiencing emotional, physical, and/or sexual abuse and are residents of the town, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor of Article 14 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 14 passes. Article 15, shall the town raise and appropriate the sum of $1,200 for the support of Senior Solutions, formerly Council on Aging for Southeastern Vermont, for help to support seniors and their families who are trying to remain at home and not be placed in a nursing home, in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there a motion on Article 15? Moved by, seconded by, moved and seconded to see if the town will raise a sum of $1,200 for the support of Senior Solutions, formerly Council on Aging for Southeastern Vermont, for help to support seniors and their families who are trying to remain at home and not be placed in a nursing home, in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Any discussion on Article 15? Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Ed. Hi, my name is Joanne Ehrenhaus, and I'm a Chester resident, and I work for Senior Solutions. And I want to take this opportunity to alert everybody as to what we can do for you and your family. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. I just want to remind everybody that while we do serve 46 communities in southeastern Vermont, here in Chester, we have served over 300 units of service to people, which includes care coordination with our case managers, providing information on various Medicare, Medicaid issues and obtaining of insurance, helping people who are looking for volunteers to visit them because they are so lonely, they don't know what to do. We do really a lot for people, and nobody's getting rich at Senior Solutions. Here's one of our case managers here. She can attest to it. We just feel compelled to continue to serve and help everyone as much as we can. We can't do it all. We don't have enough help to help everybody. However, I want to remind you that we also sponsor and facilitate 4 memory cafes in our service area, one of which is right here in Chester. We operate out of the back of St. Luke's Episcopal Church on the Green, one day a month, the 4th, no, I'm sorry, that's the other one. You can go to all of them, and there's no charge. But in Chester, we have our Memory Cafe the first Thursday of each month from 11 to 1. It's the best time to do it, not too early. You can get your loved one pretty much out of their pajamas and into sweatpants. And it's early enough so they're not experiencing sundowning syndrome. We serve a terrific lunch, snack, whatever you desire, including gluten-free, and it's free for everybody. You're all invited. This coming Thursday is our Memory Cafe, so come on by.
Thank you.
Sue Willis, if anyone is interested, we also brought a bunch of our...
Did you tell us who you were?
Sue Willis.
Sue Willis.
Case manager at Senior Solutions, but there's a bunch of the annual reports out there if anyone is interested to see the kind of dollars that are going through, and it's broke down nicely.
Further comments or questions on this article? There being none, we will vote on Article 15 to see if we will appropriate the sum of $1,200 for the support of Senior Solutions, formerly Council on Aging for Southeastern Vermont, for help and support to support seniors and their families who are trying to remain at home and not be placed in a nursing home in accordance with Section 24 VSA Section 2691. All in favor of Article 15 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 15 passes. Article 16. Shall the town of Chester appropriate the sum of $2,250 for the support of Mover Rockingham to provide transit services to the residents of the town of Chester in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there a motion on Article 16? Moved by Ann Lamb, seconded by? Moved and seconded, Judy Hallberg seconded it, is to see if the town will appropriate $2,250 for the support of Mover Rockingham to provide transit services to the residents of the town of Chester in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there any discussion on Article 16? You weren't recognized, so we didn't pay attention to that. Is there any reasonable discussion on this article?
Ice cream sounds pretty reasonable.
There being no further discussion, we'll vote to see if we will appropriate the sum of $2,250 for the support of Mover Rockingham to provide transit services to the residents of the town of Chester in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. All in favor of Article 16 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 16 passes. Article 17. Shall the town of Chester appropriate the sum of $800 to support Windsor County Mentors for youth mentoring services provided to children in Windsor County in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there a motion on Article 17? Moved by Nick Boak, seconded by Melody Reed. To see if the town will appropriate the sum of $800 to support Windsor County Mentors for youth mentoring services provided to children in Windsor County in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Any discussion on this article? There being no discussion, we'll vote to see if we will approve the appropriation of the sum of $800 to support Windsor County Mentors for youth mentoring services provided to children in Windsor County in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 17 passes. Article 18. Shall the town of Chester appropriate the sum of $400 to Green Mountain RSVP and Volunteer Center of Windsor County to develop opportunities for people age 55 and older to positively impact the quality of life in the community of Chester through volunteer service in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there a motion on Article 18? By Ann Lamb. Seconded by? Moved and seconded, Article 18, to see if we will appropriate the sum of $400 to Green Mountain RSVP and Volunteer Center of Windsor County to develop opportunities for people aged 55 and older to positively impact the quality of life in the community of Chester through volunteer service in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there any discussion on this Article 18? Could you wait for the microphone, please, Ms. Pennell?
I just don't understand exactly what they do. It sounds a little vague. Is anybody involved with it?
Is there anyone here who can respond to the question? Could you bring the microphone to Ms. Reed?
Melody Reed, Chester, Vermont. My only experience with RSVP was when I was working at Gallery at the Vault in Springfield. They pay for people to come in to get experience in a work environment. And so they're like a volunteer for our organization or an organization, but we don't have to pay for them. The program does.
Thank you. Further comments? Yes, ma'am, with the microphone.
Thanks. Joanne Ehrenhaus again. Yeah, Senior Solutions actually gets several volunteers through RSVP. There are a bunch of retired people that want to help everybody. So any nonprofit that needs somebody to do what I used to call a lick and stick, a mailing or something, or you need extra volunteers at the hospital or wherever you need RSVP is very generous and shares them and tracks them, and they're very responsible, and what a great organization.
Further comments?
Ari Simonis, and I know they are behind and sponsor the Bone Builders activities that are in all of our communities. They're the ones that support it and put it together.
In the back?
Nick Boak, like most of this stuff, it's in the back of the book. It's on page 108, and it talks about bone builders and a number of other things.
Further comments or questions on this? There being none, we will vote to see if we will appropriate the sum of $400 to Green Mountain RSVP and Volunteer Center of Windsor County to develop opportunities for people aged 55 and older to positively impact the quality of life in the community of Chester through volunteer services in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor of the article indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 18 passes. I want to thank you all for your forbearance and the use of the microphone. It makes a big difference to all of us. And importantly, Evan Parks has been very helpful walking around and making sure each of you had an opportunity to grasp that. Article 19, shall the town appropriate the sum of $1,800 toward the support of the Community Cares Network of Chester and Andover, Inc., a nonprofit organization which provides services to senior citizens, helping them to stay in their homes longer safely, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there a motion on Article 19? Who first did that?
Mary Adams.
Oh, okay, thank you. Moved and seconded to see if the town will appropriate the sum of $1,800 toward the support of Community Cares Network of Chester and Andover, Inc., a nonprofit organization which provides services to senior citizens, helping them to stay in their homes longer safely, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Is there any discussion on this Article 19? There being no discussion, we'll then vote on Article 19 to see who will appropriate the sum of $1,800 towards the support of the Community Cares Network of Chester and Andover, Inc., a nonprofit organization which provides services to senior citizens, helping them to stay in their homes longer safely, in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor of Article 19 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 19 passes. Article 20. Shall the town of Chester appropriate the sum of $4,000 to Meals on Wheels of Greater Springfield, Inc., for continued support and services to the citizens of the town of Chester in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there a motion on Article 20? Moved by Melissa, seconded by? Melody Reed. So Article 20 moved and seconded to put on the floor discussion of whether we shall appropriate the sum of $4,000 to Meals on Wheels of Greater Springfield, Inc. for continued support and services to the citizens of the town of Chester in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. Melissa Post, would you like to speak?
I'm Melissa Post, a Chester resident and a new board member of Meals on Wheels. I just want to clarify, Greater Springfield includes Chester, Springfield, Wethersfield, Cavendish, Andover, and Baltimore. So I want you to listen. I'm sure you know what Meals on Wheels is, but if you don't, we provide meals 5 days a week, cooked meals, by delivering to people 60 and over who are unable to cook for themselves or live alone. And we deliver them with volunteer drivers 3 times a week. So listen for how you might become involved. Also, you may wonder where the funding goes. It's not exactly what you might think. It supports the infrastructure behind the meals. So we pay for a part-time employee to prepare the meal bags and clean the kitchen. The meals are prepared elsewhere. We pay reimbursement to drivers for gas. We pay an accountant part-time to deal with reimbursements and taxes. We pay for insurance, paper goods, and rent of the church, which is St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Springfield. So town contributions do not fully cover our costs. We also seek donations from individuals, businesses, and service clubs. So the two questions for you are, if you have an hour and a half to spare and would like to become a driver, we welcome drivers, and you could do it on a 1 day per week or more. It takes about an hour and a half, and you could even be a substitute driver. So St. Mark's and Springfield is where you would pick up the food. The second question is if you know anyone who could benefit from these services, you could reach out to me, or you could, I'm sorry, I don't know if we have a phone number. I'm that new to the board, but you could contact Senior Solutions because they're also involved with the meals.
So repeat that number, please. What is it? 885-2669, 802. Thank you. Any further comments on this article? There being none, we'll vote on Article, okay, no hands raised. On Article 20, to see if we'll appropriate the sum of $4,000 to Meals on Wheels of Greater Springfield, Inc. for continued support and services to the citizens of the town of Chester in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor of Article 20 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 20 passes. Article 21. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $5,570 to Neighborhood Connections, Inc. and Mountain Town Connector to cover the cost of providing services in Chester in accordance with 24 VSA 26, Section 2691. Is there a motion on Article 21? Moved by, seconded by, moved and seconded to see if. No, you, and just give me. David Carey moved and seconded by. To see, as it has been moved, if the town will appropriate the sum of $5,570 to Neighborhood Connections, Inc. and Mountain Town Connector to cover the cost of providing services in Chester in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this Article 21? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Tom Simmons. I'm a Chester resident, and I'm the Executive Director of Neighborhood Connections. Neighborhood Connections has been in existence for now 16 years, and it serves a dozen what we call the mountain towns, which is the Route 11 corridor stretching from Chester to Bromley and then south to Townsend. Probably the two services that are most associated with the work that we do in Chester is the social work and our transportation system. In terms of social work, we met with 25 different families in Chester in the last year. It's often for very complicated cases where our licensed social worker helps them through a lot of financial and other issues. We often get referrals from other organizations in town, like the Chester Andover Family Center. We have fixed pipes and filled oil tanks and completed assisted living forms and provided a lot of services financially. We have been working with several families who were impacted by the floods of 2 years ago. We continue to work with some of these families and intercede on their behalf with FEMA and other agencies that have held up funds that have not yet come through. The other service is the Mountain Town Connector.
and that's our bus system. We have a 12-passenger bus. We also have 7 paid drivers in sedans. We basically do what the mover is unable to do for residents of Chester. We provide what we call door-through-door service, which means we will go into someone's house, help them out, get them in the bus, take them to the doctor or wherever they need to go in with them, help them with whatever forms they need to be done. It really is a bus service for those who are the most fragile, often among us. In 2024, we provided 510 rides for 39 different people. Most of them were medical, because the other thing that differentiates us from the mover, and we work with them very closely, is that we go far out of the area. So people who need to get retina treatments in Burlington or Albany or Springfield, Massachusetts, we will take them there. We also, there are 6 residents of Chester who have been dependent on us to deliver their prescriptions to their house. All of our services are in the town report. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has, and I will invite you to our community meal, which is at our headquarters in Londonderry. Our next one is March 11th. We use the bus to stop at Senior Circle, Chester Senior Circle, and we fill that up and bring people to that meal every single month. And it's a party bus.
Any questions? Any further discussion? There being no further comments, questions, or discussion, we'll vote on Article 21. No. Yes. Article 21. Will we appropriate the sum of $5,570 to Neighborhood Connections, Inc. and Mountain Town Connector to cover the cost of providing services in Chester in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691? All in favor of the article indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 21 passes. Article 22. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $5,000 to the Black River Area Community Coalition for continuing to work within the Chester community preventing youth substance/alcohol misuse in accordance with 24 VSA Section 2691. Is there a motion on Article 22? Over here. Where are you going, Evan? Oh, Steve, excuse me. I beg your pardon. Steve moves, seconded by Penny Benelli. Steve Dock. Is there any discussion on this article?
Hi.
You are?
Lauren Ingersoll. I'm the director of the Black River Area Community Coalition. And I'm here with my colleague Andrew Moore. He's the other BRAC staff member, and together we run the Chester Teen Center program down the road. So BRAC is a nonprofit substance misuse prevention organization, and we serve youth and families in the Chester and Ludlow communities. The last time I was here, I spoke to the Chester board about BRAC's plans to respond to the needs of our youth who, after much assessment and data collecting and community conversations, we found that they face a lot of challenges related to isolation, living in a rural community, and that leads to challenges around mental health and substance abuse, a lack of perceived opportunities and inspiration. There was definitely a need for a safe space for them in the community so they could feel like they're a part of it. So last year we began exploring this idea of starting a teen center, and so much has happened since then. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I would like to highlight some successes that we've been through with our pilot program. So yeah, it was about the same time last year that we started with just a small focus group of 6 Green Mountain Union students. And we were meeting once a week, talking about this idea and if it has potential. And then that turned into something very real. So we are now serving over 60 local youth. And we see like between 15 and sometimes 30 students showing up at our program every day. We are open now twice a week and running regular program hours, and it's been a huge success, and we've seen overwhelming support from our community. So I just want to take a minute to thank you guys for being there and supporting us from the very start all the way through. We have secured an opportunity to expand our program space and our activities. We got some grants to renovate a building next to the church where we hold our program so we could create a permanent space for the teen center. And that's moving forward, and we're really excited about it. We're getting a lot more interest. We have kids showing up every week, new participants showing up every week, and they keep coming back. And that's what's been making this such a real success. And we're just hoping that we can keep it going because it's been amazing so far. And I think this is something Chester really needs, and the youth are really leaning into it, and they feel like it's a place where they can make it their and have some agency. They can connect with each other, learn new things, be creative, have fun, decompress, and we're hoping going forward that we can bring in a lot more things into our program, connecting outside organizations in with more support and resources. We're going to do like specific creative workshop classes and educational classes, tutoring. We hope to expand our hours. We hope to hire more staff and serve more youth. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions about this article? There being none, we'll vote on Article 22 to see if we will appropriate sum of $5,000 to Black River Area Community Coalition for continuing to work within the Chester community preventing youth substance/alcohol misuse in accordance with 24 VSA 2691. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 22 passes. We have the final point here, and that is any other business. So if there is any other business that one wants to present that does not involve any matter or issue that was discussed in previous articles or doesn't provide or require any binding agreements, this is an opportunity for one to present such a point of discussion. Is there any? Yes, sir, you are.
Mr. Moderator, I rise to offer a resolution to the meeting. Living in the north can sometimes be tough, but in those times we often find our neighbors looking out for us, and in turn we do the same for them. Through caring and respect, strangers can become friends, and so I move that we resolve the following. As fellow people of the north and fellow lovers of the Maples, the people of Chester affirm their friendship with and their respect for our neighbors of the people of the nation of Canada.
So there is a motion from Mr. Cunningham to this body to adopt a resolution. Is there a second to that motion? Steve Dock seconds the motion. Would you read that resolution again? And then we will have discussion.
As fellow people of the North and fellow lovers of the Maples, the people of Chester affirm their friendship with and their respect for our neighbors, the people of the nation of Canada.
Is there any discussion on that resolution? There being none, we will vote to see if we will, as a community or as a town, adopt that resolution. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution has been adopted by this body. Is there any other business to be brought before this body that's non-binding and has not been discussed in previous articles? There being none, then we'll adjourn this meeting at 20 minutes to 9.